All right, guys, and away we go. Here it is, Monday, December 16th, 2019. Welcome in to another edition of the Happy Hour Tip-Off Show, powered by WagerTalk.com. I'm Joe Raineri. He is Ralph Michaels. College basketball was absolutely lit up this weekend. It was just matchup after matchup, whether it was Oregon, whether it was Michigan, whether it was Gonzaga, it was Arizona, Minnesota, Ohio State, you name it, Ralph. There was some great college basketball this weekend, an awful lot of fun to sit in front of the TV and watch it.
You know, Joe, we talk about and we pick out a weekend and we say there's great college basketball, but there's great college basketball every day. There's games. I mean, when conference play starts and we have these teams matching up, you know, we're gonna have this every night for the rest of the year. That's what makes college basketball so great.
It's so true, and it's only going to get better from here. Going to be disappointments, North Carolina, but there's going to be a lot of fun too. I mean, any which way you cut it, we're starting to get to know these kids' names, starting to see the same names pop up over and over, and then of course starting to see some of the same teams pop up over and over. And we always like to start with some of our favorite upsets from the weekend there, Ralph. And you can see there on Saturday at the top line, you had, Army, Buffalo. You had Colgate, Cincinnati. Actually, there were a few on Saturday that were a bit of a head-scratcher.
By dogs of 2.5 or more on Saturday and then 6 on Sunday. Buffalo losing to Army is big, but, Cincinnati is probably the one that jumps out to me on that list. For them losing like they did was the biggest shocker for me.
Yeah, and then, Sunday yesterday was an interesting slate, too. Nebraska, Purdue. I'm not sure who had Nebraska there taking care of business, 12.5 points. But, wow, Ralph, Nebraska really starting to shoot the ball well.
Well, again, you had a new coach, you had 5 new starters, you had a team that lost to Riverside in the opener by 17 points. And, Purdue's only other road game going into yesterday was November 13th at Marquette, a game they lost by 10. Mm-hmm. I don't know how many times we're going to say it, Joe. Teams making their first road game when you're playing a conference opponent like this. Ohio State did win that game at North Carolina. Well, we know North Carolina's down a notch, but you go play that conference foes waiting for you like Minnesota, and 2 Big Ten upsets yesterday, and it's going to happen day in and day out when these conference opponents play tough, when they play their first in a long time road game.
Yeah, and I don't know. What's North Carolina's excuse? Losing to Wofford at home. Not a road game there, Ralph.
Well, again, for people that watch this show, we've talked about how North Carolina, after that Ohio State loss, is just not a good team that can't get that doesn't have offense. And now, you add into the mix that Cole Anthony's going to be out. Yeah, they're going to be a middle-of-the-road ACC team at best.
Yeah, an unranked Minnesota team, a team that we have talked about a lot here, Ralph. Just a brutal schedule to start. Well, they get home, and they get, of course, one of the best teams in the country, they're Ohio State. But, boy, did they handle their business in that little street fight last night.
Well, Minnesota's a team that can play with anybody. Yeah, they may go on the road, and they may struggle, but at home, they've played the number 24 schedule in the country, and you play Oklahoma and Butler and Utah and Iowa, and you lose those games. Well, you gain something from it. A home game, their only home loss was that DePaul game that they got run. So they're going to be the team where they can win by 20 or they can lose by 20. They don't have a consistent offense, but they have enough to get it done on certain nights, and they have enough to get blown out on certain nights.
And some of the top performers from the weekend, both Saturday and Sunday, up there for you guys. Some names that might be familiar to you, some that you might just be learning, like Mason Jones there, Arkansas versus Tulsa, dropping 41 points, 4 assists, 4 steals, 1 block against a pretty good Tulsa team, Rob. I mean, we've talked about Tulsa. We actually like them a lot this year.
Yeah, Tulsa at home is a power, on the road. This is an Arkansas team that I actually had them last week in their loss to Western Kentucky. They went on the road and lost a game. But, anytime you drop 41 in a win, it's going to be a nice game. And, Breen Tyree for Ole Miss, 34-5, 4 assists, 2 and 1. So, that's an all-around game. When you're getting into all of those categories with 4 of them more than one, it's a great day.
Yep, and then, of course, yesterday, Marcus Carr leading the way. Minnesota over Ohio State, dropping 35, 3-7, 2 and 1. I mean, what more can you say about the kid? And then there's that name again with all the "Can I buy a Val?" Ralph from USC over there. I let you say that name. I'm just going to go double O's there.
I said, Joe, that I would learn what his name is, and I am remiss. I did not. So,
double O it is.
when I was doing it today, I actually just spazzed out. So hey, hey, no excuses. I'm just going to give you the honest opinion. It's his Twitter is Big O21. So done. I think from now on, that's what we call him.
That's all he gets. Dropping 28 points though. He was on fire and electric in that game.
Yeah. So Big O21 it is.
Mm-hmm. Putting him there, and then Northwestern, little. We haven't talked Northwestern very much here. Ryan Young dropping 25 points, 12, 4, and 2 on the day.
Yeah, Northwestern's a team that I have followed close. My son had a friend that played there from his high school, so he's gone now, but it's still a team I follow. And, they're a bottom end of the Big Ten, no question. But, you still have Big Ten talent taking on an inferior foe in SIU Edgeworthsville, and that gets it done. Tyree Sharp, to me, the 30 points he put up in 30 some minutes, with the 4 assists and 3 steals. I'm a big fan of guys that can get steals because they really are a game changer.
They certainly are, and game changers certainly came in all shapes and sizes there from a betting perspective. Some of the biggest against the numbers and totals covers there yesterday. Looking at those green sections, of course, over the weekend. We talked Army, Buffalo there. And how about Boise State, Alabama State there, Ralph? Another one, 22.5 points, 100-57.
Yeah, again, an overmatched team, and that can happen. There's a lot of times where, when you're a 20-point favorite and you're off a couple losses and you need a feel-good win, you can go out and get one. It's much more impressive for me to see the Rutgers cover, against a legitimate Seton Hall team and beating them by 20 as a 1.5-point dog.
Yeah, that was kind of crazy there. And then you had another one, Ralph, that it wasn't nearly as electric as we thought it was. How about Memphis, although taking care of business? Memphis, Tennessee going under by 40, Ralph.
Yeah, hats off to Memphis. I mean, that's obviously a huge game. And I was reading the Tennessee papers this morning, and, the Tennessee paper said, hey, can the Vols finally be the best team in Tennessee? Well, I don't know. You lose outright to Memphis. So, and then flying under the total as well.
Yeah, and then Bradley State, Georgia Southern yesterday. Big cover there by 25, Ralph.
Yeah, that was a game I was on. I split my games yesterday. I had 2 plays. I was on the short end of Bowling Green against Cleveland State. They got a 24-point lead and led up in the second half. But I was on the Bradley side. So it was a game that was close at half. And even with about 7 minutes to go, it was about a 10-point game. And then they just absolutely ran them out of the gym. Yeah, and then, of course, Minnesota, you're winning as a 7-point home dog. And you're, more often than not, when you're a home dog like that and you get the win, you see Nebraska and Minnesota making the chart yesterday.
Yep, absolutely. And then, of course, some of the under games shouldn't be a surprise. Although Oklahoma State on the road against Houston there didn't see that coming, but all of a sudden they found some defense to play there at Oklahoma State.
I liked Oklahoma State, and I was gonna use them, but they still have the injury of point guard, so he had missed the last few games there, and I just couldn't pull the trigger going with them. But we talked about it with Ani in the middle. He changes the way a team can play, and you get a team that isn't quite shooting up to par. They still can play some defense.
Yep, and again, guys, a reminder here all week, especially today, $9 Monday there. You can head over to wagertalk.com. All sorts of opportunities for you guys to grab some plays here today. 17 in college basketball alone. We'll get to some of our marquee matchups coming up, but just head over to wagertalk.com. You can see where all the action is, and of course, Ralph's page right there, always available, and especially his Twitter page, guys. All sorts of great information always be posted up there at CalSportsLV. So make sure that you hop on that and check out what's going on. And Ralph, it's an interesting, shall I say, card here today, but I do believe that we've got some, I'm sure, a trend or an angle or two that you've got coming our way with today's action.
Yeah, again, I'm going to keep prefacing it. Just because I give you a trend or an angle on a team doesn't mean that we want you to play them. It's just more FYI as you're looking how to handicap these teams. UTEP playing in their home tournament this week, a doubleheader. They're 3-19 over under at home, so they clearly an under team. NC Wilmington at home, 10-1 over under, and a couple ATS teams for the side. UC Irvine, if they're off a home win, they've gone 12-2. They're playing at UTEP tonight. And UC Santa Barbara, 23-8 against non-conference foes the last 3 years. They've taken care of business. And we talked about there's different mentalities when you're playing college hoops. There's teams that play those non-conference opponents and give their all, and there's teams that need to play those opponents because of money. So, you always have different scenarios on non-conference.
So true. Money, the almighty dollar, guys. And we'll take a look at the markets here and mention some of those games to see what's going on, where some of the movers and the shakers are. One game that stood out here, Ralph, getting a whole lot of love today is Valpo taking on Charlotte U. Opened up at a 135 for a total. It's been pushed up to 137.5, but the sheer amount of tickets, it's the most it's the most bet game here of the day. But the line has stayed at -4 for Charlotte at home over Valparaiso.
Yeah, it's Valpo certainly a much quicker team than they've been in the past with Matt Lolich. Now, in his, I think, third year here, third or fourth year. So he's got some guards that are a little more experienced, and he's pressing that pace. So, I guess I agree with that money. The number was pretty low for that Valpo game.
Yep, and a couple of other games that we're seeing at least some interesting line movement. A couple of them we'll talk as our marquee matchups. But I will say you got a dog in the fight between Eastern Illinois and Western Illinois, because certainly seems to be getting an awful lot of love here this day, Ralph.
I don't. And, it's interesting that, I thought the line was right. So obviously, my opinion doesn't mean anything. There's still people betting into them.
Yep.
A lot of times, even though these teams are so close, I think people look at the records and you see Eastern Illinois is 6-4 and Western Illinois is 2-6.
Right.
So that's the automatic, I think, where you get people now that college football's over. What do I do on Saturday? Well, I got to bet some hoops because there's only Army-Navy. And you get to Monday, and I think a lot of times people are betting those teams just because of the record, and Eastern Illinois with the clear better record.
Yep. And how about one West Coast game here, Ralph? Also getting a lot of love. It's kind of moved up here. UC Davis at home taking on Loyola, and UC Davis started as pretty much a pick 'em, but looks like UC Davis getting a whole lot of love here, at least over the last hour or so. It's been pushed to -2 now for the home team.
I am on the opposite side. So it's a move I disagree with.
There you go. See, that's why and it's early on here, guys. But it's always good taking a look at the market, trying to see what some of the movers and some of the shakers are doing, and even take a look and see if there's a dog or two on the card here that might have struck a chord with Ralph. And I don't know, Ralph, is there? Well, besides this one here, we just said you like the opposite side, Loyola there, UC Davis getting all love. Was there another dog on the card that you liked?
There wasn't. There was only 2 or 3 games that I looked at, and we like to give a dog play out, and obviously I would give out Loyola, but I'm going to use that as my best bet. So
okay.
There's not another dog that jumps out to me that I would say I feel comfortable even betting as a fun bet. How about you, Joe? We got to give something.
Yeah, I mean, you're right, but some of these spreads are just, I mean, the games that really could go the other way are within 2 points, 1.5, 2 points of each other. Everything else is a monster number out on the card today. So I mean, there really isn't a whole lot. I mean, I even like Charlotte over Valpo at this point, but the line keeps moving in that direction with me as well. So not a whole lot in the way of dogs here, Ralph, but I'm sure there's going to be something in the marquee games that we talk about coming up, and also if there is a certain trend or something that you came across that you might want to share with us about these games.
Well, again, a very limited card again, and I'm just going to mention that I'm a big fan of these teams that play these mini 4-team conference games. Mm-hmm. UTEP's laying 17. We know it's going to be a lower scoring game, as I mentioned with the angle, but I think UTEP can completely maul this North Carolina AT&T team. And, as I mentioned, when you're playing these mini 4-team tournaments, you're always playing the weaker foe game 1 to move on to game 2. But it's very important to not get shut out in these games. So I think you get a very concentrated effort in game 1, which UTEP is hosting North Carolina AT&T.
All right, and a couple of the matchup games here tonight, guys. Keep in mind these aren't the primetime games, but these are a couple of games I think that certainly have some interest, Ralph, and have certainly raised an eyebrow or two. And we'll start with how about our friends over at UC Irvine taking on Kent State tonight? Interesting matchup. Another one of these lines, Ralph, that has seen 1.5 points for Cal Irvine opening up, but boy, oh boy, somebody likes Kent State because it's all the way up to 2.5 for them now.
Yeah, it's rare that we're going to have this as our marquee matchup on a Monday, but until Big Monday starts in a couple weeks for the conference games, it's still a Monday light card, and it's 2 teams that are in the top 100 teams probably in the country or close to it. I actually lean Kent State. This is that doubleheader in UTEP. So this is in El Paso.
Right.
You look at Irvine, and we're so accustomed to this Irvine team, 30 wins and having the defense prowess that, knocked off Kansas State last year and, then lost to Oregon. But their turnover, they are number 351 in forcing turnovers. They are just not playing defense. And Kent State has taken care of business. They have not turned the ball over. They're playing very soundly. Kent State's only loss this year is to Ohio State on the road by 19. They don't have a lot of good wins. I mean, they've played a very, very weak schedule, number 317 overall. Mm-hmm. But to me, if I'm having to pick one, because this is our marquee matchup, I do lean with the Golden Flashes.
Yeah, you know what it is? I like UC Irvine. I like the Anteaters, their ability to be able to box out. I think they're going to control the boards, which I think will give them an opportunity to eliminate some second chance points there. But you're right, they've lacked in a little bit of defense that they've had before, but that's exactly what Kent State has done. But Kent State hasn't exactly been great on the road or neutral site games, so I lean towards the under in this game. I don't know that we're going to see 2 teams light up the scoreboard necessarily.
Yeah, well, it's a game where if there's a question, and I have offenses that haven't played in a neutral setting like that, Can never argue with the underplay.
Yep. And second game on the card that we'll focus here tonight, guys. Northern Illinois taking on Pittsburgh. Now, opened up at 121.5. Opened up with a low total, but that has shot up to 126 in a lot of places. Pittsburgh opened up as a 10-point favorite. They've been pushed up to about 11.5 across the board. What do you see in this game tonight, Ralph?
Well, I'm gonna lean Pittsburgh, and I'm gonna lean under. Pittsburgh's coming off. Pittsburgh's coming off that loss to Louisville, where they lost 64-46. They lost by 18 points, but they are a top 100 team. They're probably a little probably outside like the 64 teams that I would make it, but you look at a couple of home losses they had earlier to Nicholls State and West Virginia, and you scratch your head. But again, a young team. You got 3 underclassmen that normally start. It's a team that's going to get better. It's a team that just beat Northwestern and Rutgers the last couple games before that Louisville loss. And Northern Illinois, you lose to UC Davis on the road. I don't care. You're coming off, you're coming off one of those 9-day rests, which is tough for an offense to get going. They have a very poor offense anyway. They don't, excuse me, they don't share the ball well. Their assist numbers are bad. Their turnover numbers are bad on the road. So when I have a bad turnover team going on the road against a good defensive team, only one way for me to go. I lean Pitt and the under here.
Yeah, I'm with you on the under. I like to see the number is creeping up too, because I think it's an overreaction to a low number. Because these two teams, let's face it, it's a defensive battle. It's what the Panthers do best. Northern Illinois is just awful. They just can't shoot this year for some reason. 40% for field goal efficiency on the season. They do play at a much slower pace, of course. The under is 7-3 in their last 10 overall, and it's not like Pittsburgh goes out there and lights people up and scores a ton of points. So I'm kind of with you. They too, though, also struggling from with field goal efficiency there, just 41% on the season. So definitely like the under in this one, Ralph.
Yeah, no question. The big difference, though, is if you look at Pittsburgh has played the number 17 toughest slate of defenses. So when you're saying, okay, Pittsburgh's struggling, shooting 41%. Now they're playing a Northern Illinois defense, which is, 114 from Ken Palm's ratings.
Right.
But in comparing them, Northern Illinois has played the 309th slate of defenses. So one team has played top 20 set of defenses. The other team has played a bottom 40 set of defenses. So when you're comparing numbers, that's the difference when you're getting adjusted defensive numbers, because 41% against the number 17 slate of defenses is like shooting 48% against the number 310 set of defenses.
Yep, they have. It's been a gauntlet for them over there tonight, but they do get to take at least a little bit of a breather here in that game. All right, best bets here, Ralph. I think you already let the cat out of the bag on which direction you are leaning here tonight. Again, small card, 17 games on the board. But if you had to make a choice, let me guess. Are you going to go Loyola?
Yeah, not even making a choice, Joe. This is up at Wager Talk. So this is my only college basketball play for today. And, for those watching this show on Monday, I do have my first bowl game up. I went a perfect 8-0 in bowls last year. It is a 5% totals play. If you go to Wager Talk today only, it's $9. It goes to $40 tomorrow morning. So if you have any interest in that, make sure you get it tonight. I have, it's two different directions. Loyola's a team that finally got their first winning season in 5 years. Last year, they had momentum going in. Tough non-conference slate. They started 3-5, but now they're back off back-to-back confidence-building wins. Now they're 5-5. They can go on the road. They can get this win. UC Davis played Saturday night late down on the road at San Diego, 40-hour turnaround. They're coming off of an 11-20 season. They're a very young team with 10 underclassmen on their roster. I think good spot for Loyola to win the game.
All right, very good. Get Loyola in there, and I'm gonna go with Charlotte here, taking on Valpo at home. Listen, I think both of these teams are pretty evenly matched, but I think Charlotte has been really comfortable and really good at home this year. Valpo has struggled on the road this season. I think the numbers about, is giving the edge here to Charlotte. I see some 3.5s and 4s out there. Charlotte, I think, is a better defensive team at this particular point also. So I think they'll get easier looks on the offensive side at home. And I do think that Valpo will struggle a little bit like they have all year long on the road. So I don't mind laying the points, and I don't mind taking Charlotte in this matchup.
Well, you look at Charlotte, and, Ron Sanchez is now in his second year, and they certainly struggled last year. But I think there's something to be said with those teams that are 4-4. Charlotte was 8-20 last year in the coach's first year. So you're 8-20. You're coming off that bad season. You lose to James Madison, you start the season 0-1. Then all of a sudden, you knock off Davidson at home and you knock off Wake Forest at home. You're back to winning.
Right.
You go on the road, you lose to App State and Georgia State. Well, those aren't bad losses. You beat Upstate, then you beat Wilmington. So you have a winnable team. You're 4-4. You're in the second year of new schemes and conferences. And realistically, you have 3 winnable games coming up with Valpo and Maryland, Eastern Shore, and East Carolina, where you're these kids. You haven't played in 9 days. You had your finals break. You're feeling good. You went into the break with a win. You're coming out. You actually could be sitting at 7-4. And, that's what a coach easily can get his kids motivated, I think, with that type of philosophy.
Well, there you go, guys. You updated here what happened over the weekend. You got a couple of best bets here. You got a couple of trends, things to be able to tackle and make it a profitable night in college hoops. And like Ralph said, don't forget wagertalk.com, guys. There are plays up every day of the week. Happens to be $9 Monday here today, but always something there for you. Visit Ralph's page at Cal Sports, at Cal Sports LV on Twitter, the Cal Sports page there at wagertalk.com. You have access to all of Ralph's plays all week long. Just get over to wagertalk.com. Ralph, always a pleasure, my man. Good luck. Enjoy the games here tonight. And the good news is we get to come back and break it all down again tomorrow.
Joe, we'll talk to you in 23.
Absolutely. Be good, guys. Get to wagertalk.com. Thanks so much.